The moment the main servers went dark, the entire glass tower seemed to hold its breath. Screens across 40 floors froze at once, trading graphs flatlined, numbers stopped blinking, and a low mechanical hum gave way to an unbearable silence. In that silence stood a man no one noticed, a single-dad janitor with tired eyes and worn gloves, holding a mop in one hand while quietly realizing he understood the problem better than anyone else in the building. What happened in the next few seconds would shake a $100 million corporation to its core and change one forgotten life forever. Before we go deeper into this story, pause for just a moment. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that greatness can come from the most unexpected places, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. The janitor's name was Daniel Reed, and most people only knew him as the quiet man who worked nights, emptied trash bins, and cleaned conference rooms long after executives had gone home. He moved through the building like a shadow, careful not to disturb the world of tailored suits and expensive shoes. Every night, after clocking out, he rushed home to a small apartment where his 8-year-old daughter waited with homework spread across the kitchen table and questions about the universe he sometimes struggled to answer. Daniel's life had narrowed to two responsibilities, keeping the lights on and being present for his child, and there was no room left for dreams. What no one at the company knew was that Daniel had once been one of them. Years earlier, before life unraveled, he had been a systems engineer with a rare talent for seeing patterns where others saw chaos. He had loved the logic of networks, the way information flowed like blood through veins of code and hardware. Then his wife fell ill, medical bills piled up, and when she passed away, grief swallowed everything else. Missed deadlines turned into missed opportunities, and eventually, a layoff letter ended the career he had built with pride. The janitor job was never supposed to be permanent, just a way to survive. But survival has a way of becoming routine. On the night the crisis began, Daniel was cleaning the executive floor. The CEO's office doors were closed, but panic seeped through the walls. Emergency lights flickered on, and alarms pulsed softly in the background. Somewhere above him, a trading algorithm had failed, triggering a chain reaction that threatened to erase over $100 million in minutes. Engineers flooded the command center, voices overlapping, hands shaking over keyboards. Outside the glass walls, the city glittered, unaware that a financial disaster was unfolding inside one of its tallest buildings. Daniel noticed the first clue by accident. As he wiped down a server room window, he saw a familiar error pattern reflected on a frozen monitor. It was subtle, buried beneath layers of alerts, but to him it was as clear as a wrong note in a song. His heart began to pound, not with excitement, but fear. He knew the fix. He also knew his place. Janitors did not interrupt crises run by executives and senior engineers. Janitors stayed invisible. He tried to ignore it and kept cleaning, but every step away felt heavier. Thoughts of his daughter flashed through his mind, her laughter, her trust, the way she believed her father could fix anything. The company might lose millions, people might lose jobs, and he was standing there with the answer. Finally, something inside him broke. Not courage, exactly, but responsibility. The kind that grows when you have already lost everything once and cannot watch it happen again. Daniel moved toward the command center, mop bucket rolling softly behind him. Security glanced at him and looked away, assuming he was just doing his job. Inside, chaos reigned. Screens glowed red with warnings, executives argued strategies that wasted precious seconds. The CEO stood at the center, composed on the outside, but eyes betraying fear. This was her company, her legacy, and it was slipping through her fingers. Daniel didn't raise his voice or demand attention. He quietly pointed to one screen and gestured toward a network node that had gone unnoticed. The engineers barely registered him at first. But one of them followed his gaze, frowned, and leaned closer. The room shifted as realization spread. Daniel explained the issue in plain terms, not technical jargon, describing a feedback loop caused by a recent patch interacting with an older security protocol. His hands shook, but his mind was clear. Within seconds, he outlined a fix so simple it felt impossible: a temporary reroute, a manual override, a reset sequence executed in the right order. The lead engineer hesitated, then nodded. They followed the steps. The silence stretched, heavy and unforgiving. Then, one by one, screens blinked back to life. Numbers began moving again. Loss projections halted. The system stabilized. A collective breath rushed out of the room. $100 million stopped bleeding away because a janitor had spoken up. The CEO turned to Daniel, really seeing him for the first time. Not the uniform, not the mop, but the man behind them. She asked for his name, his background, his story. Daniel stood there, suddenly aware of how out of place he looked among tailored suits, and answered honestly. There was no drama in his words, only truth shaped by years of quiet endurance. The next morning, the entire company buzzed with rumors. Emails circulated. Meetings were called. Daniel arrived for his shift expecting nothing more than a polite thank you, maybe a pat on the back. Instead, he was escorted to the top floor. The boardroom doors closed behind him, and for the first time since his life fell apart, he felt the ground shift beneath his feet, not with fear, but possibility. The CEO spoke not about profit or loss, but about value. About how the company had nearly failed not because of technology, but because it had stopped seeing people. She offered Daniel a position that matched his skill, not his uniform. She reinstated his career with a title, a salary, and benefits that meant his daughter would never worry about healthcare again. But she did something more powerful than any promotion. She told the company his story. At the next all-hands meeting, Daniel stood on stage, lights bright, heart racing. He wasn't introduced as a janitor who got lucky, but as an engineer who had never stopped being one. The applause that followed wasn't polite. It was thunderous. People saw themselves in him, the fear of falling, the hope of being seen again. Life didn't magically become perfect after that. Daniel still packed lunches, still helped with homework, still carried grief for the life he lost. But now, when his daughter looked at him, she saw pride reflected back. And when Daniel walked through the building, people greeted him by name, not because of his title, but because of what he represented. The company changed too. They created programs to identify hidden talent, mentorship paths for workers at every level, and a culture that encouraged speaking up, no matter your role. Productivity rose, but more importantly, humanity returned to the halls of glass and steel. As weeks passed, Daniel often returned to the server room where everything changed. He would stand there quietly, remembering the fear and the choice he made to step forward. He understood now that fixing the system had been easy. Fixing the silence had been the real challenge. And just before this story ends, I want to ask you something important. Please comment below with one word that describes how this story made you feel: hope, faith, courage, or something else entirely. Your words matter more than you know. Near the end of the year, Daniel received a handwritten note from the CEO. It didn't talk about profits or success. It thanked him for reminding her why the company existed in the first place. Daniel folded the note and tucked it into his wallet, next to a photo of his daughter. To him, both were reminders that life could break you down and still build you back up in unexpected ways. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness, humility, and courage can change lives, please like this video, share it with someone who might feel unseen right now, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps keep these stories alive, and together, we can remind the world that sometimes the person holding the solution is the one everyone forgot to notice.